What's up? I want to wrap a little bit back at my home base, as you can see. Uh, this is going to be another kind of rambling video. It's kind of my style so far. Yes, I am looking to change that, but for the time being, I like to just have an idea and go with it. So I want to talk, anyways, I want to talk about, I want to wrap a little bit about why freedom is the best value. So, when we talk about values, we talk about core values that drive us. Boil yourself down to one word that drives you. I know it might be hard, but boil yourself down to one word, the one thing that you value more than anything. I almost guarantee you, if you think about it long enough, and we'll walk through this together Socratically, that you will come to the same conclusion. And that's that freedom is the best value to have, the best driving force to have. Best meaning most optimal for your happiness and success in life. So let's look at a few values that people might think of first. The most obvious to me being kindness. Kindness, let's quantify kindness as, so I want to just first take a second here. So I come from a sort of a clinical background, both personally speaking, as having been diagnosed with a couple mental illnesses, and then having treated them and overcome, as it were, and professionally. I work with individuals with special needs. And so part of, very low level, but at any rate, I am a clinician all the same. So part of, I'm sorry, my chin is just being cut off and it drives me bonkers. Give me a sec here, folks. Okay. So part of, and now my head's cut off. I just have a long head. That's what it is. Anyways, part of being in a clinical setting and part of a philosophical discussion, part of getting on the same page is defining things. And this is why this tyrannical thing that the regressive left does, where they redefine language, is so goddamn dangerous. Because once you get tripped up on the definition of, oh, you stared at me funny, I'm a black person and you stared at me funny, you're a racist. Once you get tripped up on that, then you like to lynch black people. That's what it is. Which obviously has just a few logical fallacies there. At any rate, values. So, we're going to take a look at kindness first. We'll quantify kindness in this case as giving to those less fortunate than ourselves. And so right off the bat, it seems like, oh, well, yeah, that's a good value to have. But hang on. If your value is give to those who are less fortunate than myself, and that's the value, that's the only way that you quantify that, well, then suddenly you're not going to have a car and you're going to be out on the street, and the person you were giving all your money to is now going to be where you were. And now, of course, obviously the answer to that is, well, we have to create another exception to the rule. We have to quantify that a bit better. But how good of a value do you have if you have to keep quantifying it and making exceptions to the rule? So we'll say give to those less fortunate unless it would be to your detriment. But then how do you define detriment? How do you define that? Because one person's detriment could be, well, now I won't be able to buy my Mercedes. Another person's detriment could be, well, now I can't live in my house. And still another person's detriment could be, well, there goes my little grass hut that I had. So then you have to define detriment. And that's going to be different for every individual person as well. So that's garbage. That's flawed, because then by the time you're done with it, you have so many exceptions to the rule that it's such a complex algorithm So, kindness. So, let's look at wealth. I want to have enough wealth. But obviously, right off the bat, what is enough? What is enough? And then from there, we can go into what is happiness. I need enough to make me happy. Well, what is happy, truly? But happiness is a whole nother thing that we may or may not discuss later. Another value people have is family. I value my family. All right, well, that's good and all. But what if your family is full of just really shitty people? And that could very well be the case. And your family could be that way because they valued their family. And so they did the same things that their family did, which were shit things like, I don't know, rape, rob, murdered people, just off the top of my head. But that might not necessarily be your situation. You could just have a family of assholes. Assholes will define as just people who are just generally not nice. Now, nice, of course, we'll have to define that too. But see, again, now we're getting lost in a definition game. And that's messy. So part of getting on the same page is coming to the table and talking about it. It's really not that difficult. And it makes me so sad. I've had to end a relationship because this person was a regressive tribalist. And I've loved this person like I've never loved anyone else. But there was no talking to be had. There was no talking to be had. At any rate. So freedom, to my mind, only needs one or two, maybe, further defining qualities. And this is the driving force that drives me, by the way, which I think I already mentioned. But it's the driving force that should, and honestly, truthfully, if you just talk about it and discuss it and think it through, drives all of us. Or at least should. Sorry, I got someone outside playing music. But freedom, defined as do whatever the hell you want, just as long as you don't infringe on other people's rights. Now, what are rights? Well, the best definition, frankly, is what we have here in the States, what was quantified and boiled down from years of philosophers. And that is, you have the right to live a life. You have the right to exist. Exist meaning breathe. You have the right to exist. You have the right to be free, which means do what you want, say what you want, but don't, as long as it doesn't infringe on other people's rights to breathe or do what they want or say what they want. And you have the right to pursue your own happiness, your own individual happiness. And ultimately what this comes to then is individualism versus collectivism. The individual versus the collective, versus the tribe. Now, tribes at a time served a purpose. And tribes still do serve a purpose, I might add. But just don't be a damn tribalist. That's where you get in trouble. Because that's where you mob mentality. That was another value I wanted to say. Country. People value their country. But people can value their country too much. What's best for our country? Well, it's what this man up here said. This man up here told me what's best for my country is if we kill all the Jews. Why? I'm not entirely sure, but he said it's best for the country. So I guess that's what we're going to do. So freedom has the least exceptions to that rule, freedom. I'll have to look up the Latin, and then we'll discuss that further. At any rate, that's all for now. Rate, comment, subscribe, whatever the hell else, all the rest of it. Hopefully this was enlightening on some regard. And again, I'd like to emphasize the reason these videos are so short and frankly rather simplistic. First of all, these ideas are incredibly simple, at least to my mind. Maybe that's because I already think about freedom a lot. But second of all, it's to encourage discussion. I don't want to jelly donut too much of my stuff into things. I want this to be a discussion. Now, maybe YouTube videos aren't the right forum for it. But that's what I want. And maybe this is naive of me, but I really believe that language, love, and laughter are the key to all of life's woes. You talk to people, you find humor in life, as I discussed in my last video, and you love, you embrace. You say it's okay to be yourself. At any rate, that's all for now, and stay tuned for more.